Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at how fear strikes twice in another way. Recently I did a video series on Fear No Evil, where I explained how fear is a major problem of knowledge, how it can keep us from finding the knowledge we need, and also how it can keep us from applying the knowledge we need. And it's interesting because this is going to tie in to the first two ways out of Buddhism's Eightfold Path. Now, I've done a video specifically on Buddhism's Eightfold Path, and the first part of this Eightfold Path has to do with the first doorway. This is where fear destroys our ability to think clearly. And being able to clearly see what is wrong is the first step that any one of us has to take to solve any problem. And that's Buddhism's first step. We must have the right views. We must clearly see what is wrong. As Dr. Phil says, we cannot change what we do not acknowledge. So obviously somewhere along the line that message got through to Phil, whether he read Buddha specifically or one of his teachers read them and paraphrased them, and now he's paraphrasing them. But that's the first thing we have to do. We cannot change what we do not acknowledge. We must understand that false knowledge exists. And then the second step has to do with the second doorway or portal we have to go through. And that's where we have to apply what we know. And according to Buddha, we have to have the right aspirations. We must decide to be cured. We have to take action. Knowledge is worthless unless we apply it. So there are two doorways we have to go through where there's obstacles. Fear is in the first doorway, so it strikes there, keeping us from finding the knowledge, but then it can strike again going through the other doorway where we're not willing to apply it. And again, we must decide to be cured. When it comes to solving problems, my friends, we have to realize that we play a role. We have to be able to look at the number one obstacle that's keeping us from finding that knowledge, and it's the false knowledge. So we have to think like a Buddhist. We have to be able to entertain two possibilities at the same time. Now what that means is we have to take a look at our belief system and find a belief that's getting us in trouble, like our views on what to eat, for example, and hold that in one spot and then compare the opposite. We have to hold these two possibilities in our brain at the same time. To illustrate what I'm talking about, to understand our belief system, you have to understand the three stages of knowledge, where knowledge is acquired in the first stage. So when we look at the first stage of knowledge, again, it's acquired, applied, and then manifested. Three stages of knowledge. When we look in the first stage, at the top we have the knowledge of how to live, the plus A box of knowledge, and we have the negative A box of false knowledge. So our belief system can be represented by circles inside both of these boxes. The problem we have is we cannot learn anything when we think we already know. We take that circle of false knowledge and we superimpose it into our circle in the plus A box of knowledge. So what we have to do is we have to look at all of those beliefs that are that we think are inside of our circle and question, are they really the truth or is it false knowledge? We shouldn't cook our food. Well, let's consider the possibility that we should eat raw food. You see, this is what we have to do. We have to question our false beliefs. And what's the best way to deal with that obstacle? It's the same way when it comes to all of our obstacles. Remember, the number one problem in knowledge, we don't have the knowledge we need. And the number one reason why we can't find it is false knowledge. That's piece number two. And then there are 19 main reasons or obstacles why we can't find that knowledge. And the best way to deal with all of those and all the pieces within them, because there's a total of 55 problems of knowledge altogether, what's the best way to deal with every one of them? It's simply to test an idea whose time has come. Do something you haven't done before on a temporary basis so you can see what you're missing. So decide to test an idea as time has come. So the willingness part of the performance equation is the one that is getting most of us in trouble once we find what we need to do. Remember, more and more people are waking up right now. We just don't know what to do. There's a lot of people out there trying to do the best they can, but they don't have the right knowledge. We're making 5 main mistakes, and we're addicted to some of those big time. The best way to find out if they're a mistake is to do a solid food vacation. You can go down below into the description box And you can see the first of a 3-step process that I perfected that addresses the willingness issue, so we'll make the decision. That's the hardest part of doing anything. It's making the decision. I also uploaded a Solid Food Vacation playlist with 28 videos so far, so you can understand everything you need to do to take your life to another level. So you can play your role when it comes to solving problems that are within our control. Once again, when we look at this Eightfold Path by Buddhism, we understand that we can eliminate the suffering on this planet if we can just clearly see what is wrong. We are in a major state of denial. Most people don't see anything wrong with cooking our food. And you'll never understand what that's all about until you have a brand new reference. That's one of the biggest problems with getting out of the rut we're in, out of Plato's cave, is because most people just can't evaluate what they're doing and what they need to do because they don't know what they're missing. They're not going to think it's a fair trade. Look at Bernoulli's formula. Expected value of doing something equals the value of doing it times the odds of doing it. Well, even if you believe it has a lot of value, it's not going to do any good if you go around saying, I can never do that. And yet, when you share this message, how many people say that to you? Oh, I can never do that. Well, how do you know? And think about what we're saying. If you really understand the consequences, if only a fraction of them are true, you'd be a fool not to see if it's true. All we need for most of us is about a week of our lives before we have that aha moment, or at least a light bulb moment. But there's nothing like an aha moment when you start seeing the real serpent come out of you. I'm telling you, my friends, we don't understand what happens when we're eating the food with the wrong bowel transit time. It's too slow. We have a serpent inside of us. It's affecting us in ways we don't understand. Not having the coherent sunlight energy in our cells affects us in ways we don't understand. That's why we have to do something we haven't done before. So again, the hardest part's making the decision. Take the second step in Buddhism's Eightfold Path. Go through the second portal. Go through that doorway. Apply what you know. What's the easiest way? I labeled it piece 54.5. That's where we're willing to apply what we know, but we don't have to believe in this to test it. So that's what I'm asking you guys to do. Test an idea as time has come. If you haven't done it before, make the decision. It's the hardest part, and you can make it real easy just by doing it. So make the decision, and when you do, you're in for a treat.